All right, let's talk Georgia Bulldogs football here for a little bit. Exciting time, obviously. Regular season is almost around the corner. College football is finally back. And this Georgia program, obviously one of, if not the best program in all of college football, and they're starting to get praise even from hated rivals. This is exciting news out of Athens. I'm Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, we know the Georgia Bulldogs under head man Kirby Smart have basically created the next great dynasty in college football, and they're set to even add on to it this year. And they're starting to get praise, not just from former Georgia Bulldogs, but even competitors as well, including former Alabama Crimson Tide player and current Houston Texans head coach D'Amico Ryan's a smart guy in the National Football League. Let's pull up this report, then we'll talk about what it means on the other side. This is courtesy of SI.com. The Houston Texans dipped into the Georgia pipeline during the 2024 NFL Draft, selecting defensive back Kamari Lassiter from the Bulldogs program. During his short time with the Texans, the former Georgia defensive back has impressed second-year head coach D'Amico Ryans. For Kamari, you can tell he's built for this, Ryan said. Like when it comes to the mental toughness piece that plays a lot into being a good football player. You have to be mentally tough and you have to have that next play mentality. And at Georgia, Kirby has done a great job. You can tell raising them the right way. Kirby has done a great job with all of his guys, having them NFL ready to go. And there's one thing you see from Georgia year after year since he's been there. Like, these guys are plug and play type players, and it's a credit to him and his program and how they run things there. You get a Georgia guy, you know you're getting an NFL player. D'Amico Ryan said. Now, obviously, D'Amico Ryan's former Alabama player. He doesn't want to say good things about Georgia. He just has to. And I think this is a real credit, kind of emblematic what we've seen out of the Bulldogs, what they've done with this program, creating just an arsenal of deep talent year in and year out. And I think it will continue this upcoming season. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. But first, Bulldogs fans, in the comment section below. Regular season, like I mentioned, is almost here. Now's your chance, your last chance. Give us your prediction for the final record of the Georgia Bulldogs. Look, it's easy to say it's undefeated. I get it. But come on, really dig deep into it. Give us the final record and give us the one game that worries you the most in the comment section below. But Miles, let me throw it over to you now. What are your thoughts on this latest Georgia news?
Yeah, I think this is really great news, Nick, especially coming, like you said, from a hated rival, a guy who was the opposition for a very long time for Georgia. But we look at him in a different light now. This is also news coming from an NFL head coach, a guy who looks at and evaluates a lot of Georgia talent. So I think this phase of reasoning kind of sets Georgia up in a lot of good positions. One, in recruiting, what you hear as a recruit is the head coach of the Houston Texans says, if I go to Georgia, I will be a plug and play NFL player. Now, there's a little bit of a caveat there, but more or less, he is saying that the way that Kirby Smart builds his players, builds his program, that these are all NFL ready guys. And I think, Georgia doesn't really have any problems recruiting, but this is a big boost in the right direction. Having a legend of the NFL, a legend of college football, and now a head coach in the NFL come out and say, hey, if you go to Georgia, you are really going to be a solid player in the NFL if you have the talent. I think that's a big boost for them as well. Then there's the second aspect of this, which I don't necessarily think Georgia fans are going to want to talk about or acknowledge, but you are the top dog in college football right now, which means everybody is gunning for you. What does that lead to? You hear the constant stories about off the field issues with players from Georgia. There's a headline every other week about someone racing or doing something crazy. And I think it's overblown. I do think there's a lot of people putting these stories out there because I think those happen on every team. But what I hear, what I see is the players coming out of Georgia making to the highest ranks of the football world. They seem disciplined. They have mental toughness. There's a vibe about them that they're professional. They're NFL ready guys. So I think what we hear from the general media, which I necessarily wouldn't trust that much, you hear a different story when it comes to the guys that know football and know the players. So I think in that aspect as well, Georgia is getting a good light out of the comments from D'Amico Ryan saying these guys coming to the NFL, they're professional, they're really consummate NFL ready guys. I think this is a great sign for the Georgia Bulldogs.
I think you hit on really just a bunch of great points there. But I think first and foremost, I think it's about recruiting, right? And the way you can build and maintain a dynasty and really any sort of success in college football is obviously in the recruiting department. Transfer portals, that's short term stuff. long-term success is predicated on recruiting. And the fact that NFL coaches are coming out and saying, hey, listen, Georgia players, they're plug and play guys. We don't have to worry about them. They're consummate pros, like you said. That's going to do wonders in recruiting, because basically that was Alabama for the past 20 years, right? That was the whole thing. You go to Alabama, even if you're third string for 3 years, you play as a senior, you'll get drafted, you'll go to the National Football League. Georgia has taken that mantle from the Crimson Tide. They're now the program that leads that charge in terms of getting quality recruits that are interested and want to play at the highest level and get NFL coaches excited about them. But I also think, once again, it's a credit to Kirby Smart. I think it's what he's done with this program is really tremendous. And I think we have to say it now. Georgia has officially, and I know I've said it a bunch of times before, but at a certain point, I think we all in just the college football world have to realize that Georgia is now the preeminent dynasty. They are a dynasty. They're the number one force in college football. We're so hesitant to hand off the mantle, for whatever reason, right? We're still, I mean, look, listen to Miami Hurricanes fans. They're still stuck in 2001, for God's sake, right? In college football, we're so slow to kind of hand over the torch, pass the baton, all that kind of stuff. But Georgia has officially claimed that mantle. They are the program that every NFL coach wants to get players from. They're the most talented program. They're the most well-coached program. They play a brutal schedule. They're consistent year in and year out, regardless of turnover at certain positions. They overcome adversity, right? They do everything you would want in a dynastic program. And I think a lot of credit has to be given to Kirby Smart. I think it's further proof that he has now established his own dynasty in Athens.